Monsieur le Président, la nation demande.
Mr. Speaker, the entire nation has recognized the importance of air companies. France gave $22.7 billion in grants and subsidies to the aerospace industry in France. As have done other countries, there have been loans, subsidies. We need to hear that the air industry is a priority. Mr. Speaker, when will this Liberal government take supporting the aerospace industry seriously? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we know that Canadian workers and businesses of all sizes are facing uncertainty during this pandemic. We will continue to analyze the specific difficulties caused by COVID-19 to industrial sectors who may be having unprecedented financial difficulties because of the pandemic. We have always supported workers in the aerospace industry in Canada, and we will continue to do so. The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
In 1 year, Canadian carriers have lost 14% of transatlantic capacity share. U.S. carriers are operating at 50% capacity, while our Canadian carriers are only operating at 25%. Leakage to the U.S. market is expected to grow as Canadians go to the U.S. for more inexpensive flights. When will the government provide the airline sector with a plan so that Canada won't continue to flail in the international market?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to begin by pointing out that we are in a historic pandemic right now, and we have put in measures in Canada designed to protect Canadians. The members opposite, we've seen the Conservatives a few times saying we should follow the example of the Americans in how they're managing the pandemic. That is simply not what we are going to do. We stepped up with over $1.1 billion in support for Canada's airlines. We will continue to support them through this pandemic, through many of the measures we're even voting on a little later this week. These are the things that we're doing to both support our industries and keep Canadians safe, unlike what the Conservatives seem to want us to do.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Well, Mr. Speaker, finally this week, the government announced funding for the airline sector for only one region of Canada, leaving all other regions across Canada with reduced or eliminated service. Flights such as Fredericton to Halifax, Regina to Winnipeg, or North Bay to Toronto, all of which have been suspended. Other regions continue to wait for the government to act, wondering if their regional needs will ever be addressed. Is this what regions can continue to expect as a response for the struggling sector, or will the government finally come up with a national, coordinated plan to help all regions of Canada?
Well, Prime Minister.
I suggest that the member opposite should actually listen to her colleague who asked a really important question about supports for northern regions in this country. We actually moved forward, yes, earlier this week with extra supports for northern carriers because that's a region that is particularly hard hit by this pandemic, and we will continue to ensure that northerners who rely on air transportation to get food and basic supplies continue to be able to rely on that. We have been there for Canadians right across this country from the very beginning. We will continue to be there for Northerners and indeed for all Canadians, Mr. Speaker.